I'm not sure what kind of birthday I expected when I turned 21, but I can tell you what I didn't expect. A half-eaten grocery store cake from the back of the fridge and a wrinkled piece of paper that said, "Sorry, money's tight. Love, Mom." No name, no balloons, no dinner, just that. But let me rewind, because this story didn't start on my birthday. It started years ago, buried under 100 little slights that I used to convince myself weren't a big deal. I'm Nate, 21 now, and I guess the best way to describe my role in the family is background noise. I'm the middle kid, but not the stereotypical rebel or attention seeker. If anything, I was the one who learned early on that flying under the radar kept the peace. Until it didn't. My older brother, Jake, has always been the golden child. He's loud, charming, athletic, basically the kind of guy who could crash your car, blame the brakes, and walk away with an upgrade. My younger sister, Lily, is the baby. She's sweet when she wants something and icy when she doesn't. Mom calls her our little miracle because she was a surprise baby after a miscarriage. So yeah, she's been the center of attention since she was born. And me? I was the kid who did his homework without being told, who made honor roll every year, who quietly cleaned up the kitchen when no one else would. You'd think that would earn me points, right? But in our house, quiet meant forgettable. Dad used to be the buffer between me and the rest of the family. He worked long hours, but when he was home, he noticed things. He'd ask how school was, sneak me an extra slice of pie, or leave a note in my lunchbox if he left early. But something changed around the time Jake went off to college. Dad got quieter, more tired, like he was running out of whatever it was that kept him present. Mom started running the household like a cruise director. Always planning, always micromanaging, always favoring whoever made the most noise. And Jake? Well, Jake came back from college a hero. He'd walk through the door, and it was like a parade had been scheduled just for him. Every single time. I remember his 21st birthday like it was yesterday. I was 18 then, still in high school, and I spent the whole week helping set up the backyard for his surprise party. I mowed the lawn, strung lights, even painted a section of the old fence so it would look nice in pictures. Mom coordinated with Jake's friends from college and paid for 6 of them to fly in. Dad rented a stage and speakers. A local band played for 4 hours while everyone danced under fairy lights and downed craft beer from a keg that Jake didn't even touch because he was too busy posting about it on Instagram. And the car? Oh yeah, a brand new Jeep with a red bow on top. "You earned this," Mom said, beaming, as if he hadn't barely scraped through his last semester. I tried not to be bitter. I really did. I told myself they were just excited because it was their first kid turning 21, and maybe when it was my turn, it'd be more low-key, but still meaningful. Maybe not a car, but at least dinner out. A cake with my name on it. A moment where someone looked me in the eye and said, "Hey, Nate, you matter." I carried that hope around quietly, like a fragile glass, for 3 years. So when my birthday rolled around, I woke up a little nervous, but excited. It was a Thursday, and I had classes in the morning, but I cleared my afternoon just in case. I didn't get any messages when I woke up, which was a little odd, but I figured maybe they were saving the text for when I got home. Around noon, I sent a group message to the family chat. "Hey guys, turning 21 today. Hope everyone's doing okay." A few minutes later, Lily replied with "Happy birthday." No emoji, no punctuation. Jake didn't reply at all. Mom left it on read. That should have told me everything, but I still held on. When I got home that evening, the house was dark. No decorations, no music, just the low hum of the fridge and the muffled sound of Lily on FaceTime in her room. I walked into the kitchen and found Mom unloading groceries. She looked up like I'd startled her. "Oh, hey, you're home," she said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Long day." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, it's my birthday." She paused, then smiled like she'd just remembered. "Right? Of course. Happy birthday, sweetheart." I waited. Nothing else. "I thought we'd do something simple this year," she said, turning back to the fridge. "You know, with everything going on financially." I blinked. "Okay, like what?" She motioned to the counter. There, sitting on a dented foil tray, was what looked like half a chocolate cake. Not even one of the nice ones. This was the kind you buy when you're in a rush and forgot a potluck. It had a chunk missing, like someone had already taken a fork to it. On top sat a folded piece of paper, torn from the back of an envelope. I opened it. "Sorry, money's tight." Happy 21st. Love, Mom. No signature. No mention of Dad. No joke. Just that. I stared at it for a long time. I wasn't even angry at first. Just stunned. I'd spent the last 3 years telling myself I was imagining things, that maybe I was being oversensitive or jealous. But this was indisputable. This was a slap in the face. A neon sign that said, "You're not worth the effort." I guess I was expecting a little more. I said finally, my voice tighter than I wanted it to be. Mom laughed. Laughed. "Oh, Nate, why are you always so dramatic?" That was the moment something in me snapped. Not loudly, not with shouting or broken dishes. It was quieter than that. A kind of stillness, like when you realize a storm is coming and you stop pretending the clouds are just for show. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw nothing I recognized. Not love, not guilt, just annoyance that I was making a fuss. Again, I turned without saying anything, walked to my room, and packed a duffel bag. Clothes, toothbrush, my laptop. I grabbed the framed photo of me and Dad from when I was 6, our fishing trip, the last one before Jake started sports, and we stopped doing things together. On my way out, I passed the cake again and, for some reason, took a photo of it. The half-eaten cake, the note, the groceries stacked neatly beside it, none of which looked tight to me. I stepped outside, closed the door behind me, and kept walking until the house disappeared behind the trees. I didn't know where I was going, not really. I just knew I wasn't staying. I ended up crashing at my friend Cam's place, who opened the door with a confused, "Dude, what happened?" and a look that turned to fury when I showed him the picture. We sat on his porch drinking Gatorade in silence, the air sticky with late summer heat, until my phone buzzed just before midnight. It was a text from Dad. "Are you coming back?" I stared at it for a long time, the screen glowing in the dark like it held all the answers I'd been looking for. I thought about replying. I thought about deleting it. But instead, I just sat there, my thumb hovering over the keyboard, wondering what he really meant. Coming back to what? I didn't reply to my dad's text that night, or the night after. I left it hanging there, unread, like the last thread of a conversation I wasn't sure I wanted to have. I spent the next few days on Cam's couch, alternating between silence and laughter, because Cam, God bless him, tried everything to make me forget. Old movies, junk food, endless games of FIFA. He even offered to throw me a real 21st party, just us and a couple of friends, but I couldn't bring myself to say yes. I wasn't in the mood to celebrate. It wasn't about the cake, or the note. Not really. It was everything under that moment. All the years of being ignored, minimized, passed over like a background character in my own life. I had no words for it then, but it felt like I had finally seen the truth of my family. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Dad texted again 2 days later. "Hope you're safe. Let me know where you are. Then, we should talk." And then silence. I kept expecting some kind of fallout. Mom blowing up my phone, Lily guilt-tripping me, Jake making some smug comment like, "You always were too sensitive," but nothing came. Just nothing. It was like I had disappeared, and no one in the house noticed. Or maybe they did, and they just didn't care enough to say something. I kept refreshing the family chat. Still no message from Jake. No follow-up from Mom. Lily sent a selfie to the group on Saturday with her new nails, and the only response was a "so cute" from Mom. By the 5th day, Cam's older brother needed his couch back for a visiting friend, so I had to make a decision. I wasn't about to crawl back home with my tail between my legs, so I called my cousin Miles. He was 24, lived across town in a cramped studio apartment, and ran his own tiny video editing business. We'd been close as kids, but drifted after high school. Still, when I called and explained everything, he said, "Dude, yes, come crash here. I got space between the desk and the Xbox. You're good." Miles' place was small, sure, but it felt like freedom. He didn't ask too many questions, just let me crash and gave me space. He even let me help with some of his editing gigs, wedding montages, YouTube thumbnails, short-form content, and paid me a little on the side. It wasn't much, but it gave me a sense of purpose, which I hadn't realized I'd been missing until then. It was 2 weeks before I finally ran into someone from my family again. I was walking back from the corner store when I saw Dad's car parked by the curb near Miles' apartment. He was leaning against the hood, arms crossed, looking more tired than I remembered. For a second, I thought about turning around, just vanishing into a side alley like a ghost. But he'd already seen me. Nate, he said, straightening up. I stopped a few feet away. How'd you find me? Miles' mom, he said. I called her. She's worried about you. I didn't respond. He nodded toward the sidewalk and gestured for me to sit beside him on a nearby bench. I stayed standing. Your mom's been asking where you are. I raised an eyebrow. Really? That's funny. She has my number. He sighed. Nate, come on. It's not like that, isn't it? I snapped, the words spilling out faster than I could control. She laughed in my face. On my birthday. And you? What? You didn't even know what she gave me, did you? He looked down at his hands. She told me she was keeping it small this year. I was working late. I didn't know she didn't even get you a proper cake. I laughed. A proper cake? Dad, it was a half-eaten mess from the fridge with a note. A note. Meanwhile, Jake got a concert, a car, and his college buddies flown in. His face tightened. That was a different time. No, I said, shaking my head. It wasn't. It's always been like this. I'm the backup plan. The kid who doesn't make noise. And now that I've finally said something, suddenly everyone's worried. Where was that energy when I was begging for attention for the last 10 years? He didn't have an answer. Eventually, he stood, reached into his jacket pocket, and handed me an envelope. I hesitated before taking it. Inside was a check for $100. What is this? A birthday gift, he said quietly. I know it's late, but I didn't want you to think we didn't care. I held the check between my fingers. It felt like a bribe, like hush money, like a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. I'm not coming back, I said. He nodded slowly, then turned and walked back to his car. That night, I tucked the check into the back of my notebook and tried not to think about it again. But things didn't just stop there. 2 weeks after that conversation, Jake came back into town for fall break. I only knew because Cam messaged me. Yo, your brother's at Lucky's. Bought 3 rounds for everyone. Looks like he's living it up. I stared at the message for a long time, then typed, classic. About an hour later, I got a DM on Instagram. From Jake. Did you seriously ghost the family over a cake? Bro. I didn't reply. I wasn't going to get sucked into his reality-bending nonsense. But then he sent another message. Mom's been a wreck. You could at least talk to her. You always make things harder than they have to be. I don't know what it was about that one. Maybe it was the gaslighting. Maybe it was the way he made it sound like I was the problem. That I had ruined things by reacting. Like being hurt was somehow dramatic. So I snapped a picture of the note again. I still had it in my bag. Crumpled now, but legible. I sent it to him. Tell me again how this isn't messed up. Jake left me on read. The next morning, I got a call from Mom. I didn't want to pick up, but curiosity got the better of me. Hello. There was a pause. Then her voice, sharp and rehearsed. You embarrassed your brother. I blinked. Excuse me. Sending him that note like some passive-aggressive stunt. What were you trying to prove? I was proving that I'm done pretending, I said. I'm done pretending this family treats us all the same. Oh, don't be ridiculous, she said, her voice tightening. You've always been so sensitive. You never asked for anything. We just thought. You thought I didn't matter. I cut in. That's what you thought. There was silence. For a beat, I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd say something different this time. Something real. But all she said was, well, if you're going to keep being dramatic, maybe it's better you're not here. Click. That was the last time we spoke. Or at least, the last time we spoke civilly. Because the real breaking point hadn't happened yet. That came 2 weeks later when I got a message from Lily. You might want to see this. Attached was a photo from the family Facebook page. Mom had posted it. A long caption about celebrating Jake's job offer with the family and making memories with those who matter most. In the photo, Jake was holding up a bottle of champagne, surrounded by family and friends. The living room was decorated with balloons and streamers. A giant sign said, "Congrats, Jake," in gold letters. Lily was there too, clearly uncomfortable, standing off to the side. I stared at the photo for a long time, heart sinking deeper with every second. But what broke me wasn't the party. It wasn't the decorations. It wasn't even the fact that they'd hosted it less than a month after telling me money's tight. It was what was sitting on the dining room table. A brand new chocolate cake. Whole. Untouched. With Jake's name written on it in bright blue frosting. I zoomed in. Then zoomed in again. Right there, in the corner of the frame, shoved near the edge of the table like an afterthought, was the same exact cake from my birthday. Half-eaten. Still in the same foil tray. Still there. As if they hadn't even bothered to throw it out. As if it had never mattered. And that's when I felt it. That cold, final crack in something deep inside me. Not anger, not sadness, just clarity, pure and sharp. They had never seen me. Not really. And now? Now they were going to. For the first time in my life, I was truly alone, and weirdly, it didn't feel like a punishment. After seeing that photo, with Jake and his perfectly frosted cake, and mine still rotting on the corner of the table like a cruel inside joke, something in me broke, but something else began to grow. Quietly, slowly, like a seed that had been buried for years, finally catching the light. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat on the floor of Miles' apartment for a long time, staring at that image, and I knew I was never going back. But that didn't mean everything got easier. The first few weeks after that were probably the lowest I'd ever felt. There was no big cinematic montage of transformation. No, I'll show them, speech in the mirror. Just a series of quiet mornings where I had to convince myself to get up and do something. Anything. Sometimes it was just walking to the gas station for a coffee I couldn't afford. Sometimes it was editing another boring wedding highlight reel for Miles. And sometimes it was just sitting on the roof of his apartment building, headphones in, staring at the city, and trying not to feel like I'd been discarded. The hardest part wasn't missing them. It was realizing how little they seemed to miss me. I kept waiting for someone to check in. For Mom to send a message. For Lily to ask how I was holding up. For Jake to try. But the silence stayed. Like a thick fog that rolled in and never left. The family chat was still active, full of pictures of Jake's job offer, Lily's new cat, Mom's brunch with friends. Occasionally, Dad would react to a post with a thumbs up. My name never came up. Not once. Miles did his best to distract me. He let me use his gear, helped me build a little workstation in the corner, showed me how to market myself online, pitch gigs, and make a few bucks freelancing. It was slow, but it was something. I started picking up editing jobs on Fiverr. Simple stuff at first, tweaking audio, color correcting footage, but it gave me a taste of freedom. For once, I wasn't doing what someone expected of me. I was doing what I chose. And then came the job from Claire. Claire was a lifestyle vlogger with about 80,000 subscribers. Nothing huge, but enough to pay for professional help. She found me through a comment I'd left in a Reddit thread about editing shortcuts. She liked my style, said it felt cinematic but real, and asked if I'd be interested in working on a weekly series she was starting. I said yes before she even finished her sentence. Working with Claire was different. She treated me like an equal. She gave real feedback. She paid on time. After a month, she started recommending me to friends. Suddenly, I was juggling 3 clients, each paying just enough to cover my half of the rent and groceries. It still wasn't glamorous, still mostly microwave meals and gas station snacks, but it was mine. And I didn't just grow professionally. I grew emotionally too. I started journaling. Not the Dear Diary kind, just raw, messy thoughts poured onto paper. I wrote about the birthday, the note, the cake, the moment I realized I didn't have a place in my own family's story. And slowly, through those pages, I started to reclaim something I'd lost long ago, my own voice. For so long, I had made myself small to keep the peace. Now, I didn't have to. I could be angry. I could be hurt. I could matter. One night, a couple of months after I'd left, I was scrolling through my phone and stumbled across a voicemail from my dad. It was from the day after our argument on the bench, and I'd never listened to it. My finger hovered over the play button for a moment before I finally tapped it. His voice crackled through the speaker. Hesitant. Tired. Hey, Nate. I don't know if you're getting these. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't realize how bad things had gotten. Your mom. She has a way of making things feel like they're fine, even when they're not. That's not an excuse. I should have been paying more attention. Call me, okay? Whenever you're ready. I didn't call. Not then. But for the first time, I felt something other than resentment. Not forgiveness, exactly, but maybe the first step toward it. Then, something unexpected happened. Miles had this friend, Rhea, who worked as a production assistant on small commercials and indie film shoots around the city. One night, over pizza and bad reality TV, she asked what I did for work. I told her I was freelancing, mostly editing, trying to find my groove. She shrugged and said, "You should come to set sometime. See the other side of the camera." I almost laughed. Me? On set? But the next week, she called in a favor and got me a one-day gig, just helping load gear, run errands, that kind of thing. It was chaotic, loud, messy, and I loved every second of it. Watching everyone move in sync, like a weird creative army. Seeing shots come together, helping build something from scratch. By the end of the day, I was exhausted, but I felt alive. I started doing more gigs like that. Sometimes paid, sometimes not. I was learning, connecting, building something real. And every time I stood behind the monitor, watching the footage come together, I thought about how invisible I used to feel, how overlooked, and how now, in this messy, unpredictable world, I was seen. Months passed. I turned 22 in that same apartment with Miles and a few friends. They surprised me with takeout from my favorite Thai place, a homemade cake, with my actual name on it, and a corny video montage of inside jokes and memes. No gifts, no speeches, just love. It wasn't extravagant, but it was the best birthday I'd ever had. And then, just when I thought I was finally starting to outrun my past, it found a new way to knock on my door. It came in the form of a wedding invitation. A pale blue envelope, addressed in perfect cursive, landed in Miles' mailbox one Tuesday morning. I didn't recognize the sender until I tore it open. You are cordially invited to the wedding of Jake and Alexis. Jake, my brother, getting married. I stared at the RSVP card, dumbfounded. The wedding was scheduled for 6 weeks from now. Black tie, backyard ceremony at the family home. A note at the bottom, in Mom's handwriting. Can't wait to see you there. We miss you. We miss you. I laughed out loud, startling Miles, who was making coffee. He walked over. What's that? I held it up. An invitation to the circus. He read it and winced. Dude. Yeah. Are you gonna go? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. I didn't know them anything. That much was clear. But something about the invitation, it didn't sit right. Like they were trying to fold me back into the narrative, pretend the last year hadn't happened. Pretend I hadn't left because of them. For the next few days, I carried the RSVP card in my backpack, flipping it over whenever I felt the weight of it. I didn't know what I wanted yet. Revenge? Closure? Or maybe just proof that I wasn't afraid to stand in front of them anymore. That the quiet kid they used to overlook was gone, and the man who took his place was someone they couldn't ignore. But I also knew this wasn't a decision to rush. Because if I was going back, it wouldn't be as a guest. It would be as a storm. I kept the RSVP card folded in my pocket for a week. It started to crease at the corners, the ink smudging slightly from how often I took it out and stared at it. Each time I unfolded it, the same thought flickered through my mind. Why now? Why invite me now after everything? After the cake, the silence, the photo, the blatant exclusion. Suddenly I was missed. It didn't feel like love. It felt like damage control. Optics. Maybe they wanted to avoid questions from extended family. Or maybe Jake, in all his performative glory, wanted the narrative of the forgiven brother to complete his fairy tale wedding. A story with a bow on top. But I wasn't interested in playing a background character anymore. If they wanted me there, I'd give them a version of me they didn't expect. Not the passive one. Not the doormat. This time, I was walking into the story with my eyes wide open, and I wasn't coming alone. I didn't tell anyone right away. Not even Miles. I just kept working, editing, freelancing, stacking small paychecks. And late at night, I'd sit in the corner of the apartment with a notebook, sketching out thoughts like puzzle pieces. What did I want? What would hurt the most, but still be clean, undeniable, and poetic? It couldn't be petty. That wasn't the goal. I didn't want to cause chaos just for the sake of it. I wanted them to see what they'd done. To stand in front of the mirror I held up and realize they'd pushed me away, not the other way around. And that's when it hit me. The perfect opportunity wasn't just the wedding. It was the speech. Jake's wedding was going to be packed. Our parents had always been the go big or go home type when it came to appearances. Backyard ceremony or not, I knew they'd go all out. Extended family, college friends, neighbors. My guess? 100 people, minimum. And knowing Jake, he'd want me to speak. Why? Because I was the one who left. The one who caused drama. My presence at the wedding would be a badge of reconciliation, proof that the family was whole again. He wouldn't resist the chance to parade that around. And if I gave a toast, an honest one, I could finally say the things I'd swallowed for years. Not bitter, not cruel, just the truth. But to make it land, I needed more than just words. I needed receipts. So I started digging. I went back through old text threads with Mom, with Jake, even Lily. I took screenshots. All the subtle dismissals, the ignored birthdays, the moments when they forgot I existed unless they needed something. I pulled up the photo of Jake's celebration and zoomed in again on that cursed half-eaten cake in the corner, time-stamped and everything. I found the group chat messages from my birthday, my lonely, "Hey guys, turning 21 today," followed by silence. And then, finally, I opened a folder I hadn't touched in months, the one with the audio files. See, back when I first started freelancing, I got into the habit of recording important conversations. Not for blackmail, just for reference. Notes. Memory. Especially with clients who change their minds a lot. The habit stuck, which meant that the last call with Mom, the one where she said, "Maybe it's better you're not here," that was saved. As was the voicemail from Dad, and the messages from Jake. I didn't plan to play them all. That would be overkill. But just knowing I had them, having proof, made me feel like I was walking with armor on. Still, I knew a speech alone wouldn't be enough. Jake was bulletproof in their eyes. If I stood up and just talked about my pain, they'd say I was twisting things, making a scene. So I needed something more, something symbolic, a way to pull back the curtain without raising my voice. That's when I called Lily. We hadn't really talked since I left. A few awkward messages here and there, mostly memes or "hope you are good." But I always had a soft spot for her, even when she was being indifferent. She was young. She didn't choose to be the favorite. And from the look on her face in that party photo, the one with Jake and the new cake, I had a feeling she knew more than she let on. She answered on the second ring. "Hello. Hey, it's Nate." A pause. Then, "Oh, wow. Hi." I gave her a moment, then asked, "Got a minute?" "Sure. What's up?" I got straight to the point. "I got Jake's wedding invite." Another pause. "Yeah," she said cautiously. "I figured you might. Are you going?" She hesitated. "Yeah. I mean, it's kind of expected, right?" More silence. Then she asked quietly, "Are you?" "Thinking about it," I said, but not just to clap and smile. She didn't say anything for a few seconds, so I added, "I'm not planning some meltdown or anything. I just think it's time they hear the truth." Without yelling, without sugarcoating. Lily let out a breath. "Good. They need to." That caught me off guard. "Wait, what?" She sounded tired. "Older. Nate, I see it now. I didn't get it before. But when you left, everything got clearer. They act like you vanished, like you're the problem. But I started thinking about what they didn't say, and what they never did for you." I sat down on the edge of the bed, stunned. "You know," she continued, "Mom didn't even mention your name when the wedding came up. Not once. I had to ask if you were invited." I swallowed. "Wow." She just said, "We'll see if he shows his face." Like you were the bad guy. Like we didn't all sit there with your sad cake still on the table while they celebrated Jake with new decorations. And when I pointed that out, she said I was being disrespectful. That was all the confirmation I needed. I took a deep breath. "Would you help me with something?" She was quiet for a beat. "Depends what it is." "I'm not asking you to pick sides," I said. "But if I do this, if I show up and tell the truth, I want someone else to know it's real. Someone who lived in that house. Someone who saw it." Lily didn't hesitate. "Then I'm in." We talked for over an hour that night, swapping stories, comparing moments we'd both remembered differently, until we both realized they weren't different. I just wasn't there in most of them. The trip to Disney? I was at summer camp. The cruise? I had finals. Jake's senior photos? I took them. Mine? Never scheduled. Even Lily started noticing the pattern. Mom's memory of doing everything equally was a script. It just skipped my lines. After we hung up, I wrote the first draft of my speech. Then I trashed it. Too angry. The second draft was too soft. The third too sarcastic. Eventually, I stopped writing and just started talking. I recorded myself late at night, whispering into a mic while Miles slept. Over and over, I refined the tone. Calm, thoughtful, unshakable. I didn't want revenge. I wanted truth. And by the time the wedding weekend rolled around, I had it memorized. The morning of the event, I suited up in the only formal clothes I owned, borrowed slacks from Miles, a shirt one size too big, and a black tie I'd only worn once at a funeral. Rhea helped with my hair. Miles offered to drive me, but I said no. I wanted to walk in alone. Head held high. The house looked exactly the same. Painted white with green shutters, roses blooming in the front garden. The same ones I used to weed every spring while Jake slept in. There were rental chairs set up in the backyard, a white tent with gauzy curtains, a champagne station near the patio. String lights were already flickering as the sun dipped low. I stood at the edge of the property for a moment before stepping onto the lawn. People turned. Some smiled. Others whispered. And then I saw her, Mom, standing by the buffet table, perfectly styled in a blue dress. Her eyes locked on mine, and for a moment, she didn't move. Then she smiled. Tight. Forced. Nathan, she called. You made it. I walked up slowly. She gave me a hug that felt like paper. So glad you came, she said, then immediately turned to greet someone else. That was it. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just an accessory to the event. Lily found me 10 minutes later, slipping me a folded napkin with a scribbled note. He wants you to speak. Mom's idea. You're up after Dad. Of course. Of course they wanted the performance. The look how healed we are moment. And that was fine. Because I came prepared. As guests started gathering around the microphone stand by the tent, I tucked the RSVP card into my jacket pocket, the ink still smudged but legible. This was it. They thought I was just going to smile, say a few nice words, and blend back into the fold. But they forgot something. I was never the problem. And now, I had the floor. A hush fell over the backyard as Jake stepped up to the mic, grinning like a man who believed the whole world existed to clap for him. The sun was setting just right behind him, casting golden light on his perfectly tailored suit, his perfectly arranged stage. He gave a short, cocky toast thanking Alexis, the guests, Mom and Dad for hosting. And then, right on cue, he flashed that all-American smile and said, and now, a few words from someone very special. My brother, Nate. There was a polite wave of claps, some curious glances, some awkward half-smiles from extended family members who barely remembered me. I stepped up to the mic slowly, one hand still tucked in my jacket pocket, fingers gripping the RSVP card like a grounding stone. I took a breath, smiled. Hey everyone, I'm Nate. I let the quiet settle. Jake's brother, middle child. Some of you might be thinking, oh wow, there's a middle kid. And yeah, that's kind of the story. There were a few chuckles, mostly confused. I didn't look at Mom yet, or Dad, or Jake. I looked at Lily, standing off to the side, arms folded, watching me like I was walking a tightrope she knew I could cross. I could stand here and do the usual, I said. Talk about how proud I am, how great this day is, how honored I feel to be part of this moment. But honestly, that wouldn't be true. A ripple moved through the crowd. I kept going, voice steady. I want to tell you a different story, one that doesn't usually get told at weddings, about what it feels like to grow up in a family where you're invisible, where your birthday is forgotten, where you're praised for being low maintenance, because that really just means easy to neglect, where you watch one sibling get the concert, the car, the celebration, and when your turn comes, you get a leftover cake and a handwritten note saying money's tight, only to find out 2 weeks later there was plenty of money for someone else's party. I took the RSVP card from my pocket and held it up. They sent me this a month ago. First time I heard from them in a year. No apology. No explanation. Just an invitation, like we were all fine. Like nothing ever happened. Gasps now. Some audible shifting in chairs. I still hadn't looked at Mom. I could feel her burning holes into my skull. I came here today because I realized something. It's easy to rewrite history when the quiet ones leave the room. So I wanted to be here, to make sure I'm not rewritten. I looked up now straight at Mom. You told me I was dramatic, Mom. That it wasn't that big of a deal. That I was making a scene. Her eyes were wide, mouth slightly open. Dad, you said I should come back when I was ready to talk. I was. No one listened. Dad looked away. And Jake, I turned to him now. You laughed at me in DMs, said I ghosted the family over a cake. But it wasn't the cake, was it? It was years of being second tier. Of watching you break rules and still get rewarded. Watching you fail upward while I cleaned up behind the scenes. Jake opened his mouth. I raised a hand to stop him. But I'm not here for pity. I'm here for closure. I reached into my pocket again and pulled out a small USB stick. This, I said, holding it up, is a collection of memories. Screenshots, audio clips, voicemail recordings. All documenting what it's like to be the forgotten sibling. I was going to just send it out to everyone after this speech, but I realized, I don't need to. I put it back in my pocket. Because if you don't believe me after this, you never will. And if you do, well, you already know enough. I turned to Alexis now, Jake's new wife. And to you, Alexis. We haven't spoken much, but I hope you see what you're marrying into. Not just the man, the culture, the silence. If you ever feel like your voice is being minimized, please don't wait 10 years to stand up. Her face was pale. She didn't nod. She didn't blink. She just looked at Jake, whose expression had gone from smug to stunned to something almost like panic. I stepped back from the mic. Thanks for the invitation. I'm gonna head out now. And with that, I walked off the little makeshift stage, down the aisle, past the rows of stunned faces and uncomfortable relatives. I passed the buffet table, the string lights, the DJ booth, and I didn't look back until I heard someone behind me. It was Lily. She caught up and grabbed my hand. That was incredible, she whispered. Are they losing it? I asked. She nodded. Mom's already crying. Jake's arguing with Alexis. Dad looks like he wants to disappear. I paused at the edge of the yard. I'm sorry you're still in that house. I'm not, she said. I'm leaving. I've been saving up. I just needed a push. I looked at her, really looked at her. For the first time, I saw a version of myself in her, quietly calculating an escape. I'll help you, I said. She smiled. We walked to the street together, where Miles' car was already waiting. He'd circled the block, just like I asked. I got in the front seat. Lily waved, then turned and walked back toward the chaos, head high. What happened? Miles asked, eyes wide. I told the truth, I said. He nodded. And they finally had to hear it. He started driving. We didn't say anything for a while. Just let the silence settle in. But this time, it felt clean. Like peace. That night, I got 3 texts in a row. Mom, I cannot believe you would do that at your brother's wedding. Jake, you're dead to me. Don't ever speak to me again. Dad, I wish you hadn't done that, but I get it. Maybe we can talk. Just you and me. I didn't respond to any of them. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. Later, I uploaded a short version of the speech to my portfolio site. Not with names. Not with photos. Just the words. Clean. Raw. Real. A small piece of my story, tucked between video clips and testimonials. A month later, Claire sent me a message. Hey, someone forwarded me your speech. I know it's personal, but would you ever consider doing more with it? Maybe a short doc? A spoken word series? It's powerful. I stared at the message, then smiled. For the first time in my life, my voice wasn't an afterthought. It was the headline. And I wasn't just seen. I was unforgettable.